The ocean was calm, almost deceptively so. Endless blue water stretched in every direction as a U.S. Navy destroyer moved steadily through international waters, following a routine transit that had been carried out countless times before. There were no alarms, no raised voices, and no signs of urgency on the bridge. To the untrained eye, it was just another ordinary day at sea. But in naval operations, silence often carries more weight than sound. At first, nothing seemed out of place. The destroyer maintained a constant speed, its course steady and predictable. The horizon appeared empty, broken only by distant clouds and the gentle rise and fall of waves. Yet beneath this calm surface, subtle changes were beginning to unfold. Changes so small they could easily be dismissed as coincidence. A faint shape appeared far off in the distance, barely distinguishable from the ocean itself. It wasn't moving randomly. It was adjusting. Slowly, deliberately, a Venezuelan naval vessel altered its course. The movement was careful, almost cautious, designed to blend into the vastness of the sea. The ship didn't rush. It didn't approach directly. Instead, it matched speed, angle, and distance with calculated precision. This was no accidental crossing of paths. It was shadowing. The maneuver was quiet by design. No aggressive turns, no obvious signals, just a steady presence, lingering at the edge of visibility. The intent was subtle, remain close enough to observe, yet far enough to avoid drawing attention. To most observers, the scene would still look uneventful. But for those who understood naval behavior, this kind of movement raised immediate questions. Why mirror the destroyer's speed? Why maintain the same heading? And why stay just close enough to be noticed, yet not acknowledged? As minutes passed, the tension grew quietly. The destroyer continued its transit, seemingly unaffected, while the Venezuelan vessel maintained its position with careful discipline. The distance between them remained constant, as if measured and recalculated with every passing moment. This wasn't about confrontation, at least not yet. It was about presence, about testing boundaries without crossing them, about seeing how far one could go without triggering a response. The silence itself became unsettling. No radio chatter, no warnings, just two ships moving through open water, one leading, the other following. The shadowing created an atmosphere of uncertainty, where every small adjustment carried meaning. Was this observation, intimidation, or preparation for something more? What made the situation even more tense was the patience involved. Shadowing is not a hurried act. It requires timing, restraint, and confidence. And as the Venezuelan vessel held its position, it became clear that this was only the beginning. A calculated move had been made, quietly setting the stage for a maritime encounter where every decision mattered, and where one small mistake could change everything. What appeared calm on the surface was anything but unnoticed beneath it. Aboard the U.S. Navy destroyer, advanced surveillance systems were already doing what they were designed to do: observe, analyze, and anticipate. Long before the shadowing maneuver became obvious to the human eye, radar arrays quietly tracked the distant contact. Course vectors were calculated, speed changes logged, and patterns compared. Within moments, it became clear that the vessel on the horizon was not simply passing through international waters. Optical tracking systems zoomed in, refining the image as the destroyer's sensors confirmed what instinct had already suggested. The Venezuelan ship was adjusting its heading with precision, matching speed changes almost perfectly. Every slight acceleration, every subtle turn was mirrored with intent. This was not coincidence. This was deliberate shadowing. Inside the command center, the atmosphere remained calm. No sudden movements, no raised voices. The crew exchanged brief, professional confirmations as data flowed across screens. The situation was still classified as non-hostile, but no longer routine. The destroyer had shifted from simple navigation to strategic awareness. Every adjustment made by the shadowing ship was now being documented, time-stamped, and evaluated in real time. What made the moment particularly striking was the contrast between perception and reality. The Venezuelan crew likely believed their maneuver remained unnoticed, hidden by distance and restraint. From their perspective, the operation appeared smooth, controlled, and discreet. But in truth, their movements were fully visible. Every attempt to remain subtle only reinforced the pattern they were trying to conceal. The destroyer's command team began evaluating intent. Was this observation, a test of reaction time, or an attempt to assert presence without crossing any formal boundaries? These questions mattered because in naval operations, intent often determines outcome. The difference between a harmless escort and a strategic probe can be measured in seconds, and misjudgments at sea rarely come without consequences. As the shadowing continued, the destroyer maintained its course, revealing nothing. This restraint was intentional. Responding too quickly could escalate the situation. Responding too slowly could invite further pressure. Instead, the crew chose observation over action, allowing the encounter to develop naturally while maintaining full situational control. With every passing minute, the encounter evolved. What began as a routine transit had transformed into a quiet test of awareness and discipline. The destroyer was no longer just moving through open water. It was managing an unfolding situation, balancing caution with confidence. The stage was set. The shadowing had been detected. The awareness gap between the two vessels was growing. And soon, that difference would begin to matter. For a time, the shadowing appears controlled. The Venezuelan vessel holds its position, carefully matching speed and direction, attempting to stay just far enough away to avoid confrontation. But at sea, patience is as important as proximity, and this is where the mistake begins to form. As the distance stretches slightly, the shadowing ship makes a decision driven more by urgency than calculation. To maintain visual contact, the vessel adjusts its course inward. The move is subtle at first, almost unnoticeable, but then it accelerates, just enough to close the gap faster than before. What was once a careful mirror suddenly becomes a direct approach. In doing so, the Venezuelan crew sacrifices the one advantage shadowing relies on: ambiguity. The distance between the ships shrinks rapidly. The maneuver leaves less room for correction, fewer options for disengagement, and far more exposure than intended. By trying to stay close, the shadowing vessel unintentionally reveals its purpose. This is no longer passive observation. It is now a defined action, one that cannot be explained away as coincidence or routine navigation. The error compounds quickly. With reduced maneuvering space, the Venezuelan ship becomes predictable. Course changes are no longer smooth. They are reactive. Small delays in adjustment hint at coordination gaps on the bridge. The ship is no longer dictating the pace. It is responding to it. And at sea, the moment you start reacting, you surrender control. What makes the misjudgment critical is timing. The approach occurs at a moment when conditions offer no cover. Clear visibility, stable seas, and uninterrupted tracking. The shadowing vessel has effectively placed itself inside a clearly defined engagement space, one where every movement can be measured, anticipated, and countered. The illusion of control collapses. What was intended as a quiet surveillance effort now stands exposed as an intentional maneuver. The Venezuelan crew may still believe they are testing limits, but in reality, they have crossed an invisible line, not of legality, but of leverage. This single decision changes the dynamic entirely. By closing in too aggressively, the shadowing vessel hands the initiative to its counterpart. The engagement space is now defined. The roles are clear, and the uncertainty that once protected the maneuver is gone. From this moment forward, the encounter will unfold on terms no longer chosen by the ship that made the first move. The mistake is not dramatic. No alarm sound. No weapons are raised. Yet its consequences are decisive. At sea, errors are often silent, but they echo loudly in what follows. The response does not come with noise or urgency. There are no warnings broadcast across open channels. No visible preparations that would suggest escalation. Instead, the U.S. Navy destroyer continues forward as if nothing has changed. until it does. Quietly, deliberately, a decision is made on the bridge, guided by data, timing, and an understanding of maritime law that leaves no room for misinterpretation. The destroyer alters its course slightly. The change is subtle, almost invisible to anyone not actively tracking vectors and distances. At the same time, speed is adjusted by a narrow margin, just enough to reshape the geometry of the encounter. To an outside observer, the maneuver looks routine, but to the ship attempting to shadow, it creates an immediate problem. The Venezuelan vessel now faces a choice it did not anticipate. Maintaining its position suddenly requires sharper turns and tighter corrections. The space it once relied on begins to disappear. The engagement area shifts, not aggressively, but decisively, placing the shadowing ship in an unfavorable angle relative to the destroyer's new heading. The move is legal, measured, and impossible to challenge without revealing intent. What makes the maneuver effective is its restraint. There is no pursuit, no direct challenge. The destroyer does not close distance. It controls it. By adjusting speed and direction within international norms, it forces the opposing vessel to react without providing justification for escalation. The balance of control becomes unmistakable. The Venezuelan crew now finds itself managing a situation it no longer dictates. Every correction increases visibility. Every adjustment confirms awareness on the other side. The shadowing attempt, once masked by subtlety, is now openly constrained by geometry and timing. The destroyer has turned awareness into leverage. Inside the command center, the atmosphere remains steady. This is not a show of power. It is a demonstration of command. Timing replaces force. Precision replaces confrontation. The maneuver communicates more clearly than words ever could. The situation has been detected, understood, and reshaped. No weapons are armed. No aircraft are launched. Yet the message is unmistakable. The destroyer has neutralized the shadowing effort without violating a single rule or raising the stakes beyond control. It has defined the encounter on its own terms, leaving the opposing ship with diminishing options and growing exposure. This is how dominance is asserted at sea, not through aggression, but through mastery. And in this moment, the balance of the encounter is no longer in question. The realization does not arrive suddenly. It creeps in slowly, carried by numbers on screens, tightening angles, and the growing awareness that every move is being watched. On the Venezuelan vessel, what began as a confident maneuver now feels increasingly constrained. The distance that once felt manageable has become unforgiving. Timing windows close faster than expected. Options begin to narrow. The crew attempts minor corrections, small changes in speed, slight course adjustments, hoping to regain a more favorable position. But each attempt only worsens the situation. Instead of restoring control, these movements increase visibility and exposure. The destroyer's steady presence remains unchanged, calm and predictable, while the shadowing ship becomes reactive, forced into constant adjustment. That contrast becomes impossible to ignore. The U.S. destroyer is no longer just a ship ahead. It is the center of gravity in the encounter. Its movements dictate space, rhythm, and direction. The Venezuelan crew begins to understand that they are no longer shaping the interaction. They are responding to it. What was intended as observation has turned into containment. Psychological pressure builds without a single word being exchanged. There are no warnings transmitted, no overt signals of escalation. And yet, the silence itself becomes oppressive. The lack of reaction from the destroyer sends a clear message. Awareness was never in doubt. Control was never contested. Inside the Venezuelan command space, confidence erodes. The crew now faces an uncomfortable truth. Any further attempt to close distance risks crossing invisible thresholds. Any aggressive correction could justify consequences they are unprepared to face. The margin for error has shrunk to almost nothing. Meanwhile, the destroyer maintains its composure. Its course remains lawful. Its speed remains deliberate. The consistency is intentional. It reinforces the imbalance. one side reacting, the other deciding. The encounter has quietly inverted. This is the moment when strategy overtakes ambition. The shadowing operation, meant to project presence and test limits, has achieved the opposite. Instead of gathering information, it has revealed vulnerability. Instead of asserting confidence, it has surrendered initiative. The Venezuelan crew now understands that continuing offers no advantage. Every second spent nearby reinforces the same conclusion. The operation has backfired. The pressure is no longer physical, it is mental. And mental pressure, once established, is difficult to escape. In this realization, the true outcome becomes clear. No engagement was needed. No force was applied. The encounter has already been decided, not by action, but by control. There is no announcement marking the end of the encounter. No declaration of victory. The conclusion arrives quietly, almost imperceptibly, as the U.S. destroyer continues on its assigned course with the same steady pace it maintained from the beginning. Its mission remains unchanged, uninterrupted by the events that just unfolded behind it. Gradually, the distance begins to increase. The Venezuelan vessel alters course, not abruptly, but carefully, creating separation without drawing attention. The shadowing attempt fades into the background, replaced by open water and regained space. What was once a deliberate pursuit quietly dissolves into disengagement. The moment passes without spectacle, yet its significance lingers. From the perspective of the destroyer, nothing needed to be said. No acknowledgement is given. This absence of reaction becomes the final message. The encounter ends the same way it began, with calm, control, and discipline. But the balance has shifted permanently. What defines this moment is not what happened, but how it happened. No force was used. No direct confrontation occurred. And yet, the outcome is unmistakable. The engagement was decided through awareness, positioning, and precision, elements that now define modern naval encounters more than firepower ever could. For the Venezuelan crew, the experience leaves a lasting imprint. The realization is unavoidable. Preparation outweighed ambition. Discipline overcame proximity. The attempt to test boundaries resulted in exposure, not advantage. At sea, miscalculation does not need to lead to conflict to have consequences. The destroyer moves forward under the authority of the United States Navy, carrying with it a silent warning understood by those who witnessed the encounter. Control was established not by escalation, but by restraint. Power was demonstrated not through action, but through the ability to remain unshaken. This is how situations change without headlines or explosions. The lesson is delivered quietly, embedded in movement and distance rather than words. It reinforces a truth that modern naval forces understand well. Dominance is not always visible, but it is always felt. As the ships separate and the horizon clears, the encounter becomes something more than a moment. It becomes a reminder. At sea, awareness decides outcomes. Discipline shapes control, and precision ensures that when the moment arrives, the better prepared force never needs to prove its strength. The waters return to calm. The mission continues, and the message remains unspoken but unmistakable.